Hi, I'm Carl, and in this video we're going to have a look at questions 1 to 4 of section 3 of the pink booklet. So this is a question about blood flow through the heart and different heart sounds associated with the opening and closure of different valves. So I've had a look at figure 1 and I've drawn out a simplified version of the heart which I think is a little easier to read. So I'll just talk you through it because it's a little bit different to the figure that's been given. So this is going to be, these are going to be our atria, and then these are going to be our ventricles. Obviously this is going to be the right hand side of the heart, and then this is going to be the left hand side. So that means that going into the left atria, we can label R as being coming from the pulmonary circulation. This is going to be the pulmonary vein. And then Q is obviously going to be the aorta then. And on the right hand side of the heart, we've got blood returning from the venous system and through the vena cava, which I'll just label VC. And then P is going to be the pulmonary artery. So what are these coloured lines then? So these are going to represent the valves. I think it just simplifies the diagram a little bit. So separating the right atria and ventricle, we've got the tricuspid valve, and I'll just write TC. And then on the left hand side, we've got the mitral valve, or MV. In the aorta, at the base of the aorta, we've got the aortic valve, or AV, and then at the base of the pulmonary artery, we've got the pulmonary valve, or PV. In the middle, separating the two sides of the heart, we've got our septum, at the base of which is called the apex. So that's just orienting you to this simplified version of what we've got. Question 1 says, which one of the 4 valves are open during ventricular systole? So we're told that systole is going to be when there's a period of contraction in that region. And then that's going to be the opposite of diastole then, where there's going to be a period of relaxation. So at ventricular systole, we've got lots of blood in the ventricles, and they're going to be pushed up through these, what are called great vessels. Now these have valves, as I've said, they've got the aortic and pulmonary valves. So if blood is being pushed up, these valves will need to be open to allow blood flow to happen. So that means that during ventricular systole, we need to have the aortic and pulmonary valves open. What about the other two then? Well, if the other 2 valves were open, we would get blood being pushed back up into the atria, which we wouldn't want because we want to direct blood flow just up into the great arteries away from the heart here. So we don't want any backflow of blood into the atria, which means we need to have valves at their bases. The tricuspid valve and the mitral valve will need to be closed just to ensure this unidirectional blood flow. So that means only the aortic and pulmonary valves should be open in this case. So that means the answer to question 1 is going to be B. So question 2 says, which vessels carry oxygenated blood? So we've already labelled our 4 vessels here. So looking at S, we've been told that that's going to be the vena cava, P is going to be the pulmonary artery, Q is the aorta, and B is going to be the pulmonary vein. Oh, R, sorry, is going to be the pulmonary vein. So oxygenated blood is going to be coming from the lungs. So that's going to be coming from the pulmonary vein. So we know R is going to be one of the vessels carrying oxygenated blood. And then that's going to be pushed through the heart up into the aorta, into the arterial system. So that's also going to be carrying oxygenated blood. So that means the answer for this one is going to be Q and R, or answer D. So then we're introduced to different conditions that might affect blood flow, and we're told how this might affect heart sounds, and we're given this sort of diagram here. So we've got these black rectangles representing the closure of the mitral and tricuspid valves, and then 2 different other ones. So we've got a grey one that represents the closure of the pulmonary valve, and then a striped one which represents the closure of the aortic valve. And we're told that aortic regurgitation is the aortic valve does not fully close, so blood can flow back through the valve. Okay, so question 3 says, which one of the following is most likely to represent aortic regurgitation? So I think the easiest way to do this is actually just try and come up with the diagram yourself. So if it's an issue with the aortic valve, going back up to our diagram here, I'll get rid of these arrows. Whenever blood is pushed up into the aorta, the aortic valve doesn't close afterwards, which means you get this backflow of blood. And that's what can cause the lines which are shown. So they've got these sort of lines that represent sort of abnormal backflow of blood. So thinking about the different heart sounds we might expect for this condition, let's have a look at the different boxes. So let's talk first about the pulmonary valve. Is it going to be affected? Well, the pulmonary valve's on the other side of the heart and there's no issue with its closure. So I think we could expect it just to be normal. So we can just colour that in as normal. And then we've got our aortic valve. So it's not fully closing, we're told that it just sort of half closes, it's left ajar, which means we do get some noise from it trying to close, but the aortic valve doesn't have that normal snapping sound that it normally would. So instead of having one of these boxes, we can expect that it would have some turbulent noise here from turbulent blood flow. So instead of it's just abrupt closure, we're going to have some noise from that. And so that gives us our diagram. We've got normal closure of the pulmonary valve and the aortic valve doesn't close completely. So the answer for this one, this represents figure 2, is the answer for number 3 is going to be B. And then finally for question 4, it says the thin vertical lines during ventricular diastole correspond to what? So going through the different options here, ventricular diastole, remember, is going to be the relaxation of the ventricles. A says the degree of ventricular contraction. Well, during diastole, these vertical lines wouldn't be affected by contraction, so it's not going to be A. B says the degree of contraction of the atria. So again, this is going to be looking at the ventricular period of the cardiac cycle, so it's not going to be B. C says blood flowing from the ventricles into the atria. Blood flows from the atria into the ventricles as opposed to the other way around. And then D says blood flowing from the arteries into the heart. And this is going to be this backflow of blood, the refilling of the heart in between heartbeats. So that is going to be the best answer in this case. So that means the answer for number 4 is going to be D. Okay, so that was questions 1 to 4 of section 3 of the pink booklet. I hope that helped. Thanks for watching.